What if I told you nothing you do really matters? Not in a sad way, not in a give up on life way, but in the most freeing, beautiful way imaginable. No pressure, no purpose to chase, just this breath, this moment, this one quiet night where nothing is expected of you except to simply be. Welcome. You didn't just press play on another video. You opened the door to something older than rest, something softer than thought, something called philosophy. Not the loud kind, not the kind from lecture halls or argument threads, but the kind that moves slowly, like a whisper from the stars, like a warm breeze through a tired mind. Tonight, we're going to float through the fog of meaning, through the ashes of should-haves, through a world where your to-do list gently burns in a fireplace beside your soul. No urgency, no identity, no striving to be good or smart or even awake. Just float with Nietzsche, with Camus, with silent monks who answered life not with words but with stillness. Float with stars that have burned for billions of years and never once needed a reason. Let's begin in the void, not the terrifying kind, not the existential scream, but the kind that feels like a bathtub of stars. Warm, still, weightless. Close your eyes and step in. You are stardust wrapped in skin, a soft flicker in an ancient sky, a quiet breath in a cathedral of silence. And that is enough. Friedrich Nietzsche is often remembered for his bold declarations, his criticisms of morality, and his dramatic warnings about the death of God. But beneath the fire and thunder of his reputation was a quieter voice, one that whispered softly about how to live when nothing seems to matter. He spent most of his time alone, walking through the quiet mountains of Switzerland in a place called Sils Maria. It was there, in the stillness of nature, that he found one of his strangest and most misunderstood ideas, the eternal return. The eternal return is simple but unsettling. Imagine living your life exactly as it is, over and over again, endlessly. Every joy, every mistake, every awkward silence, every ordinary moment, all of it repeating forever. No edits, no skipping ahead. At first it feels like a curse to relive every regret, every heartbreak, every mundane task. The thought is meant to press on your chest, to challenge you. But Nietzsche wasn't offering despair. He was offering a test. If you knew you had to live this exact life again and again, would you change anything? Would you treat your time differently? Would you soften toward the ordinary? Would you try to make peace with the boring hours, the small gestures, the overlooked beauty? This is where the quiet power of the eternal return begins to show. It asks you to look at your life not with fear, but with attention. It suggests that the only real task is not to chase something more meaningful, but to fully enter into what already is. When Nietzsche posed this question, he wasn't shouting. He was reflecting. He believed that learning to affirm even the smallest parts of life was an act of deep strength. Drinking your morning coffee, folding laundry, walking the same street, hearing the same song. If you can love these moments, really love them, then maybe you've already passed the test. Because if we're trapped in a loop, the only escape is acceptance. Not passive resignation, but peaceful repetition. The kind where each return feels a little more gentle, a little more familiar, a little more like home. Nietzsche didn't ask us to find greatness. He asked us to find willingness, a willingness to say yes to the life we've been given, even if it's quiet, even if it's unremarkable, even if no one else notices. There's something beautiful about that. something soft, something calming. The eternal return doesn't have to terrify you. It can simply remind you, this moment is enough. This breath, this second, this version of you. And if it comes back again tomorrow, maybe that's not a burden. Maybe that's a gift. Albert Camus once said that the most important philosophical question is whether life is worth living. Not in theory, but in the quiet moment when you wake up and wonder, yet again, why you're doing any of this at all. Camus was not interested in comforting lies or grand illusions. He saw the world as it was, strange, chaotic, and deeply indifferent. He called it the absurd, the conflict between our desire for meaning and the silence of the universe. We want purpose, we want answers, but the world gives us none. It just goes on with or without us. This could easily lead to despair, and for many it does. But Camus offers something more subtle, something gentler. He asks, what if the absence of meaning isn't a tragedy? What if it's freedom? You wake up, the alarm buzzes, you stretch, you make coffee, you look outside. The world didn't change, your thoughts didn't either, but you're here. And that, Camus says, is enough. He wrote about a figure named Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only for it to fall back down again, over and over, a task with no end, no reward. It sounds like a punishment. But Camus imagines something different. He imagines Sisyphus smiling, not because the task makes sense, not because it's fun, but because Sisyphus chooses to own it. He accepts the absurdity. He pushes the boulder anyway. And in that quiet act of rebellion, he becomes free. Camus believed that this is how we should approach life, not by pretending it makes sense, not by chasing some ultimate meaning, but by choosing to live fully, even without one. The absurd is not something to be solved. It's something to be lived through, with awareness, with gentleness, with small joys that require no justification. You don't need a grand reason to enjoy your morning walk, or your favorite meal, or a conversation with a friend. These things don't need to mean anything to be real. They just are. And maybe that's enough. Camus didn't think we should escape life. He thought we should embrace it. Not because it's perfect, but because it's ours. Because even in its absurdity, it is still filled with moments. Sunlight on your face, music in your ears, laughter that surprises you. He called it revolt, not against life, but against despair. A quiet, steady decision to keep going, to keep choosing this life with all its confusion, without needing it to explain itself. You wake up. The world still makes no sense, but you open your eyes anyway, and you say, yes. And somehow in that yes, you begin again. There is a story in Zen Buddhism that begins not with a question, but with a teacup. A student asks a master about the meaning of life. The master pours tea into the student's cup and keeps pouring. The tea spills over the edge, onto the table, onto the floor. The student protests, the cup is full. The master replies, exactly. We come into life holding full cups, full of ideas, full of expectations, full of assumptions about what should be. But to see clearly, we must first empty. Empty the need to know. Empty the urge to control. Empty the fear that nothing matters. In Buddhism, this is called non-attachment. It doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go. Letting go of clinging. Letting go of needing things to last. Letting go of trying to preserve every moment, every identity, every plan. The teacup is already broken, they say. You may not see the crack yet, but time always finds it. Nothing lasts, not even you. But this isn't cause for despair. This is the beginning of peace. Because when you realize that everything is temporary, you stop grasping. You begin noticing. The steam from your tea, the way it warms your hands, the quiet between two words, the softness in someone's eyes. These things were never yours to keep, but they were here, and that is enough. Buddhism doesn't offer answers. It offers stillness. It doesn't promise meaning. It invites presence. Just be here. Now with this breath, this moment, this teacup, even if it breaks tomorrow. To live with non-attachment is not to live without love. It is to love more gently. To see beauty, not because it lasts, but because it doesn't. A flower wilts, a candle burns down, a laugh fades into silence. But for a moment, they were. And that moment, without clinging, without resistance, is the closest thing to truth. We spend so much of life chasing permanence. But Buddhism asks a different question. Can you sit quietly with what is already fading? Can you love without owning? Can you care without needing? Can you sip your tea, knowing the cup will one day be gone? This is the gift of the teacup. It spills, it shatters, it disappears. And still, it holds something. Even if just for now, the world moves. Constantly. News alerts, deadlines, disappointments, small irritations layered like dust. And in the middle of all that noise, the Stoics whispered something simple. You don't have to react. To be a Stoic is not to be emotionless. It is not to become a stone. It is to remain still, even when the storm arrives. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled an empire, also ruled over his own mind. Each morning, he would remind himself, today, I will meet selfish people. I will meet people who lie. I will meet people who are ungrateful. But none of it has to disturb my peace. That was the essence of Stoicism. Not the removal of difficulty, but the refusal to be ruled by it. You cannot control the world. You cannot force others to be kind. You cannot change traffic or the weather or the past, but you can choose your response. And sometimes the response is simply not weakness, not withdrawal, just space, a quiet breath between you and what hurts. The Stoics believed in something called the dichotomy of control. There are things you can control, and there are things you can't. Most people live upside down, chasing what they can't control and ignoring what they can. Your actions, your thoughts, your values, that is your kingdom, and it is enough. To live like a Stoic is to live gently, to wake each morning with the awareness that pain may come. But panic does not have to follow. You spill your coffee, you miss your train, you hear something cruel, and still, you are here, unmoved, not because you don't feel, but because you've learned the strength of stillness. Epictetus, a slave who became a philosopher, taught that freedom has nothing to do with your circumstances. True freedom is within. It is the ability to remain at peace, even when the outside world is loud or unfair or unpredictable. When your thoughts are calm, your life begins to soften. You no longer argue with things that cannot hear you. You no longer carry what you were never meant to hold. You no longer fight the river, you let it flow past you. The Stoics were not cold. They were warm, inwardly. But they knew that to live well, you must know when to let go. So tonight, as thoughts arrive, thoughts of what went wrong or what might go wrong, let them pass. Don't chase them. Don't push them away. Simply notice and stay still. Like a stone in the wind. Like a mountain in the rain. Like a soul that remembers peace is a choice. You are made of dust, cosmic dust. Atoms that once lived in stars drifted through galaxies, fell to Earth, and eventually became you. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe, arranged briefly in human form. This thought can feel overwhelming at first. A sense of smallness. A reminder that your life is a speck on a speck, circling a speck, lost in an endless ocean of stars. But look again. There is beauty in that scale. The philosopher Nietzsche believed in the eternal return, a cycle where the universe repeats itself forever, exactly as it is. Every event, every thought, every version of you returning infinitely. This idea wasn't meant to frighten you. It was meant to clarify. If this moment were to come back again and again, would you meet it with resistance or would you greet it with awareness? The stars do not need meaning, they simply burn. The planets do not argue about their path, they simply orbit. You too can learn to be. There is no need to prove your worth. The universe has no scoreboard. It will not reward you for ambition or punish you for rest. It simply spins. And in that spinning you were born, not as punishment, not as reward, but as possibility. The eternal return invites you to live as if every moment matters, not because it's grand, but because it's real. Right now, in this breath, in this exact second, you are alive. That is enough. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not missing anything. You are here. The same particles that built mountains and rivers and moons built you. And for a short while, you get to feel, to think, to rest. All of it will return. The quiet night, the warm drink, the worry, the peace, like seasons, like tides, like stardust falling again. You are not in control of this cycle. You never were. But you can choose how to meet it with tension, or with softness, with fear, or with stillness. Everything you are will pass, and perhaps it will come back. But tonight, all that matters is this moment, this inhale, this calm. You are the echo of stars, the pause between waves, the breath of the infinite, resting for a while in human form. Let yourself return again and again and again. We spend much of our lives searching for meaning, as if it were a buried treasure, as if one day we'll stumble across it, fully formed, waiting. But what if meaning isn't found? What if it's made? The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre believed that life begins as a blank page, no instructions, no purpose, no final destination. This idea, called existentialism, suggests something radical. That meaning isn't hidden in the world. It's reflected from within, like a mirror. When you look for meaning in your work, in your relationships, in your future, what you're really seeing is yourself, your fears, your hopes, your values, projected onto a silent, indifferent world. And that world, it doesn't push back, it doesn't argue, it simply reflects. This can feel lonely, unsettling, a universe with no grand plan, no deeper reason, no path already laid out. But it can also be freeing. If there is no pre-written story, then you are not late, you are not lost, you are not wrong. You are simply writing. Sartre believed this freedom came with responsibility. You are the author. There is no one else to blame, no one else to wait for, no one else to give you permission. But tonight, you do not need to write anything grand. You do not need to solve the puzzle. You do not need to figure it all out. You can simply rest in the knowing that there is nothing missing. There is no secret meaning to uncover. There is only what you choose to see. A cup of tea, a shared glance, a soft blanket, a quiet breath. If you decide those things are beautiful, then they are. There is no universal law that declares what matters. Meaning does not float in the air, waiting to be caught. It rises quietly inside of you when you decide to care, and when you no longer feel certain, when meaning slips from your hands like water. That too is okay, because the mirror is always there, waiting, empty, ready to reflect whatever you offer it. You don't need to chase meaning. You don't need to hold it tightly. You don't need to prove anything to the stars. You are allowed to exist without explanation. You are allowed to pause, to feel nothing in particular, and still be whole. Some nights the mirror reflects a story. Other nights it reflects silence. Both are enough. In a world that moves quickly, doing nothing feels dangerous. We measure worth in output. We celebrate busyness. We wear exhaustion like a badge. But ancient philosophy whispers something different. It tells us that stillness is not weakness, that rest is not laziness, that sometimes the wisest thing you can do is nothing at all. In Taoism, this is known as Wu Wei, effortless action. It means flowing with the world, not forcing it, acting without struggle, living without resistance. The Tao does not rush. The river does not hurry. The clouds do not apologize for drifting. And yet, everything gets done. The Taoist sage is like a tree, firm yet flexible, rooted yet still, not obsessed with movement but open to it. When the world demands speed, stillness becomes a rebellion. When everything tells you to do more, choosing to do less is a quiet revolution. You are not a machine. You are not a task list. You are not here to optimize every moment. You are allowed to pause, to sit, to breathe, to be. Doing nothing doesn't mean being empty. It means being full of awareness, a presence, of quiet. In stillness, thoughts soften. In rest, clarity returns. When we stop chasing, life finds us. Even the Stoics, known for their discipline, understood this. Seneca wrote that time spent in contemplation was never wasted. He believed that being alone with your thoughts, without pressure, without agenda, was one of the highest forms of freedom. Doing nothing is not an absence. It's a space where meaning can unfold on its own without being forced. But it takes courage to be still, to sit with yourself, to face silence without distraction. And yet, in that silence, something opens. You begin to notice what was always there, the quiet hum of the world, the rhythm of your breath, the softness of simply being alive. There is no award for exhaustion. There is no prize for urgency. But there is deep peace in surrender, in trusting that the world continues even when you pause. So tonight, give yourself permission. Permission to let go, to lie back, to exist without producing, explaining, or improving. You are enough even in stillness, especially in stillness. Let your breath slow. Let your body soften. Let the world carry on without you for just a while. And in doing nothing, you may find everything. There is one thing we all return to. Every day, without question, without effort, sleep. It is the most ordinary thing in the world, and yet the most mysterious. We do not control it. We do not command it. It comes when it chooses, and for a few quiet hours, we disappear. In sleep, the world continues without us. Time flows onward. Thoughts dissolve. Identity fades. And still, we wake again, every time. Philosophers have often spoken of death, but few talk about sleep. And yet sleep is a kind of practice, a rehearsal for letting go. Each night we surrender, we step out of control. We allow ourselves to not exist fully. We trust that's okay. This is not weakness, it's wisdom. The Stoics welcomed sleep as a reminder of impermanence. They saw it as a teacher of humility. The Taoists called it harmony, a return to the natural flow of things. Not resisting, not chasing, just being. And the Buddhists, they saw it as letting go of self, if only for a while. To fall asleep, it is to agree with the universe, to say, I don't need to hold it all. I don't need to know what happens next. I can rest now. Sleep, too, is a kind of philosophy, a soft reminder that you are not the center of everything. And that's a gift. The sky does not wait for you. The stars continue their dance. And yet, even as the infinite unfolds, you are here, allowed to close your eyes, allowed to rest, allowed to drift into the soft nothingness. Let this be your final thought tonight. You're not broken. You're not late. You are not behind. You are simply tired. And tired things deserve sleep. Let go. You don't need to understand it all. You don't need to fix anything. Tonight, sleep is your philosophy. Sleep is your wisdom. Sleep is your truth. Thank you for walking slowly through these quiet hours, for choosing stillness over noise, questions over certainty, and peace over pressure. You've wandered through thoughts with Nietzsche, watched the sunrise with Camus, held the warmth of a teacup, sat quietly with the Stoics, and let yourself dissolve into the stars, not to learn something loud, not to solve a great mystery, but to feel something quiet, to remember that even if nothing matters, that can be beautiful, because when nothing is expected of you, you are free to simply be, not the best version of yourself, not the most productive, not the most enlightened, just you, breathing, existing, resting. The world will wait. Your worries can rest too. They are not invited here. Here, there is only stillness, only the slow hum of your own being, the steady, sacred rhythm of your breath, in and out. No rush, no effort, just the slow return to yourself. You are not falling behind, you are falling inward. Let your body grow heavy. Let your mind grow quiet. Let your thoughts pass like clouds, soft and slow, with nowhere to go. You've carried enough, you've done enough. You are enough. If your mind wanders, let it. If sleep comes, let it. If it doesn't, that's okay too. You don't need to get it right. You don't need to try. There is no prize at the end of this, only peace, only rest, only the gentle comfort of knowing that nothing you do really matters. And somehow that makes life feel lighter. The stars will keep spinning, the earth will keep turning, and you will rest. Sleep well. Until next time.